Thank you so much for Dr. Lowe's introduction. And frankly speaking, I think I also need to introduce Dr. Lowe. They said, wow, why? Dr. Lowe was my professor. And well, I think that was the last year in my college. And fourth year in my college, I took the first microcomputer class from Dr. Lowe. Hopefully I did well in that course. And then really gave me the inspiration and went into this field, and later on work on my master's degree. And then after graduation, and Dr. Lowe not only was my former professor, also became my boss. So I was teaching in Chongyuan University, electronics in engineering department, and Dr. Lowe was a department head for that department. So he was my professor, he was my boss. And I'm so glad after almost 40 years, and when I came to the state and became the pastor, then I was look around and someone said, yes, there's someone in Bay Area is very enthusiastic about the science and faith. His name is Thomas Lowe. You got to meet him. I said, really? I remember Dr. Lowe. Oh, it was a precious moment. We actually met each other again after almost 40 years. And God is great. God is great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lowe. And today, yeah, I would like to share with everybody a Big Bang. I think, let me share the screen first. Big Bang, I think a lot of people may have heard of that term, and probably you also have heard that if God created this world, how come it's a chaotic explosion? You probably have heard that. So a lot of people really has that kind of a mindset. Big Bang is a big explosion without purpose. So if God created this universe, there's no way it's coming out of Big Bang. So most of people even have that kind of thought. Well, the universe doesn't have size, right? Should be infinitely big. The time shouldn't have any limit, doesn't have a beginning. But if a time doesn't have a beginning and the universe doesn't have a size, is that conflict with our belief? Because when we read the Bible, the first line of the Bible is, can you recite with me? Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Oh, you didn't recite with me? Oh, that's the original text, by the way. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And created, that word actually carried the force of it's out of nothing, everything started from there. So what is a cosmology will be compatible for our biblical view? That is very important. So let's start from this question. Big Bang is a chaotic explosion or exquisitely fine-tuned stretching. I think that's a major difference. A lot of people misunderstood Big Bang is a chaotic explosion. And let me explain to you what a Big Bang really is. And that's some of my background. I work in Johnson Space Center, NASA, and that's a division I was working with, automation and robotics and simulation division. But behind me is a huge robotic arm I was working at, and the space version of that now is deployed on the space station. That's well, that doesn't look like a robot. How about this one? This one looks more like a robot, you think? Yes, it's called Robonaut 1 in my lab. And then later on, this Robonaut 1 became Robonaut 2, which is a space quality version. It was deployed in the International Space Station. And the RoboNut 2, you say, well, how come it has only half of that? It's handicapped. Oh, well, actually, it does have legs too. Later on, we added leg. But currently, it's we retreat back to the on the Earth and actually repairing it. There's some electronic connection between upper torso and the leg having noise problems, so they have a hard time to control it. I don't know if that's a reason because I have left there for 20 years now. Just kidding. Let's share with you, which is from someone you probably heard his name. I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason, intellect, has intended us to forego their use and by some other means to give us knowledge which we can attain by them. Do you know who is that gentleman? Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei, being a lifetime Catholic Christian, he never forsake his faith, even under the persecution of Roman Catholic Church. But he never forsake his faith. And he always believed that God has given us two books. One book is Bible. The other book is the nature. We must read both books so that to understand God's inspiration. So the inspiration and the revelation coming to us from two channels, and almost all theologians agree on that. One is through the Bible, that's called special revelation. The other one is through the universe, that's called general revelation. So in 21st century, in the cosmology and physics, how do we know about the universe? I raised a question, is the universe has a size? Does the universe has an age? And to answer that question, we have to go to some of those very important instruments we deploy in space, like the Hubble Space Telescope. Probably a lot of people have heard of that, but are there other space telescopes? Definitely so. There are many space telescopes, such as Chandra X-ray Observatory, such as Spitzer Space Observatory, such as Swift Gamma Ray Probe, such as Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe. Those are all space telescopes, because what our eyes can see is a very narrow band of a spectrum. The light frequency for whatever we can see is called visible light. And if the frequency is above that, is X-ray and gamma ray. Lower than that is infrared and microwave and radio wave. So we have to combine all of this spectrum to give us a clear image of the whole universe. When we integrate all of those images together, then we find out our universe is no longer just sun and how many planets. We have some young people over here. Usually when I have the real meeting and face-to-face meeting, and we ask them to raise your hand. Whoever says there are 8 planets, raise your hand. And whoever says there's 9 planets, raise your hand. I said, depends on your hands, I know how old you are. At my age, we used to learn that we have 9 planets. And may I ask whoever, if you are not speaking, turn off your microphone. Silence your microphone so that there will be no echo. Okay, I just found out. Okay, already did it. Okay, so our universe is much bigger just a solar system. solar system and the 8 planets. By the way, the Pluto did not disappear. Pluto is still there, but we classified into another class called dwarf planet. And solar system is just one of single, very, very small dot of our whole galaxy. We reside in Milky Way galaxy. And our solar system is just one star with 8 planets surrounding it. Actually, there are more, undiscovered one, and probably many, many more. And outside there, there's a Kuiper belt. Outside Kuiper belt, there's a Oort cloud. And so with the whole solar system, with millions and millions of objects orbiting this star. But yes, this star is only one of the how many in our Milky Way galaxy? Guess. How many stars do we have in Milky Way galaxy? 1 followed by 11 zeros. 1 followed by 11 zeros, or we call 100 billion. 1 followed by 11 zeros. That many stars in our Milky Way galaxy. Then, if we look bigger, is a Milky Way galaxy the only one in the whole universe? Oh, definitely not. There's another one, so-called spiral galaxy, NGC 4414. And our Milky Way galaxy looks very similar if we are able ever, but we will not ever be able to look at from up, down, and then our Milky Way galaxy will be very similar to that. And then we found out, wow, our Milky Way galaxy is one of many, many, many galaxies in the universe. How many of them? When we use our space telescope to observe the whole universe, then we see that every single dot of this are not a star. These dots are actually a whole galaxy, like our Milky Way galaxy. Every single dot of that. So even when you see that there's curve like this curve itself is called Einstein ring. It's from the what we call gravity lensing. It's in the middle, you have a very heavy galaxy, and behind that galaxy, there's another galaxy, being the light going through that front galaxy in front of it, and the light being curved, so it go both ways. So we see a distorted curve, but actually it's a galaxy behind the galaxy we see in front. That's called Einstein ring and gravity lensing. So all this actually are galaxy by itself. So how many galaxies do we have? Well, 1 followed by 11 zeros again. So in the whole universe, how many stars do we have? Approximately 1 followed by 22 zeros. That's how many stars we have in the whole universe. And the 1, of course, is approximately. People estimate it is 1 to 5. About 1 to 5 followed by 22 zeros. But when you compare the 22 zeros, the leading 1 or 5 doesn't matter that much. It's in the same order of magnitude. So from the Hubble telescope, when we look back, oh, listen, when I say look back, when we look back to the whole universe, we actually see the history of universe. Oh, when I say it again, let me say it again. When we look at the whole universe, we actually see the history of universe. Why? Well, actually, everything we see is not what we see anymore. The reason why there is a limited speed of time is 3 times 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. So because the speed of time, the speed of a light is limited. So whenever we see the sun is no longer the current sun. If sun suddenly disappear, are we going to know that? Actually not. 8 minutes later, because the sun, the light from the sun will take about 8 minutes from sun travel to me. So now, let me ask some extreme questions. If we look at a mirror, do I see myself? Well, actually, you did not. Because the light shine on our face and the face go to the mirror and the mirror reflected back to our eyes, it takes time. So whatever you see is not yourself. It's a history of yourself. How about we push this mirror a little bit farther? Just imagine, now you probably sit in your living room or your own bedroom. Look back, your back wall. Look back, your back wall. Okay, imagine that your back wall is 1,000 light years away. And you put a mirror on that back wall. Then you use a space telescope to look at the mirror. Can you see yourself? Yes or no? Let's, when I give that lectures in a lot of places, about half and half. Half of people say, no, we will not see it. And half of people say, of course, with a telescope, we can see it. But for half of people say, we cannot see it. They say, well, it is too far, of course, we cannot see it. 我想呢, just assume that with a space telescope, you actually can see that mirror. Are you going to see yourself? Well, the correct answer is, depends on, you were there 2 years ago now. I would say, were you there 2,000 years ago or not? Of course, you were not alive 2,000 years ago. But it takes a life for 1,000 years to travel to the mirror and then come back. And now 2,000 years later, you actually see the light. So of course, you will not see yourself. You probably will see Jesus because that's 2,000 years ago. Well, that's not science fiction. This is science. So from that observation vantage point, we see the universe, we actually see the size of universe, because the farther we see, we actually see the earlier the universe is. So when we use a Hubble telescope, we observe all the way back about 300,000 years right after the Big Bang, and we actually already have that picture. So for a just an analogy, it's like I'm 65 this year, and I see a picture of me when I was born only a few minutes after I was born. I can see that picture. Do you believe I'm 65 years old now? And not only that, from that point on, every day, someone took a picture of me and accumulated 365 pictures a year, and then times 65. And then I have a huge album. As I look at through the album, do you believe that I am 65 years old? I think nobody will have doubt, right? Yes, we actually have that album for the whole universe. And with the Hubble telescope, we actually see what happened when the universe was just born, very young, only about 300,000 years after the universe was born. And just like a few minutes after I was born. If you compare the time frame, it's like that. A few minutes after I was born. And then depends on how far you take a picture. And because of time, it's equivalent to space. When you look at back the space, the farther you see, actually the earlier the history you see. So we actually have a history of the whole universe, and every slice of it, the time slice of it, is a time slice of the whole universe. So we do have a picture, not only a single picture. We have a whole album of the whole history of the universe, and we know how was it evolved from the beginning. And now we know that the universe began about 13.77 billion years ago. Listen, billion, not million, 13.77 billion years ago. Started from a singularity, a very, very infinitely small point. From that point, everything, including the space and time and matter and energy, was created from nothing out of everything and expanding rapidly, being stretched out rapidly for 13.77 billion up to now. Who actually established that theory? His name is George Lemaitre. We call him the father of Big Bang theory. Father because he's really a father. He's a Roman Catholic father, Roman Catholic priest. And he's also later on, he's an astronomer, and later on, and the president of a Pontiff Astronomical Society for the Vatican. Also, he's a very renowned astronomer. When he worked on his PhD dissertation, he was very interested in applying Einstein, the general relativity, to the whole universe. So back then, there's a theory about the universe was static, a universe was permanent, but it cannot be static or permanent because we know that in the universe there's gravity, and gravity will collapse everything together, right? Will attract everything together. So if there is so the universe has to be moving, either expanding or shrinking. So universe cannot be stay there, static cannot be. So either expanding or shrinking. So he applied the general relativity into the whole universe. He found out the whole universe must be starting from a single point, what we call singularity. From the singularity, everything started from out of nothing, everything started. So he was pretty young at the time, so he visited Albert Einstein. He submitted his calculation to Albert Einstein. He said, Dr. Einstein, can you check my math? According to your general relativity, I calculated the universe has to have a beginning. Started from a single point, and roughly at that time, and the calculation wasn't very accurate, and because of observation doesn't have that much observation data yet. So he estimated about 15 to 18 billion years. Okay. Now with a more accurate measurement, we know it's 13.77 billion years. So he calculated that and then give it to Albert Einstein. Now Einstein checked his math, and he answered George, your math is all correct, but that's an abomination of a science. He said, you made a boo-boo to our science. The reason why is if you prove that there must be a beginning of the universe. That means there must be a beginner. You have to ask a question: who created? So nowadays, in science, there's no question about the universe was started from a singularity, and the time is about 13.77 billion years ago. There's no doubt in science. Okay, if someone still exists 7,000 years or 6,000 years, usually is not based on science. Okay, there's no dispute whatsoever. The universe is old, 13.77 billion years, and then we look at the size. Our Milky Way galaxy, for our own Milky Way galaxy, the diameter is about 100,000 light years. And our sun is in the midway, about from the middle of our Milky Way galaxy to the edge. So it's about 25,000 light years from the center. At the center is very, very hot. At the very, very, very center of our Milky Way galaxy is a black hole. I don't have time to explain too much on black hole. In the future, if you are really interested in black hole, maybe I can come back. I can tell you, black hole is not black at all. Surrounding black hole is very hot and very bright. And how about the whole universe? The whole universe, we estimate the diameter of the whole universe is about 93 billion light years in diameter. So that's the size of universe. And then how much mass, the total mass of whole universe, we can also calculate it and do a pretty accurate estimation. In the whole universe, we call observable universe. In the whole observable universe, we estimate it is about 10 to the 80 atoms, mostly hydrogen atoms. Okay, the whole universe, majority of them are hydrogen and helium atoms. Right? So I just say atoms. About 10 to the 80 power 80, 1 followed by 80 atoms, 80 zeros, that many atoms. So that's whole universe. So not only we know that the universe has a size, universe has a age, and also we can estimate, we know the total mass of the whole universe and how many atoms we have in the whole universe. So with a 10 to the 80, that many atoms in the whole universe, they say, okay, let's do a comparison. How about you and me, our mass? Regularly for a guy, say 100 kilogram, and I'm not 100 kilogram, okay, by the way, say 100 kilogram, a human being, and he has about 10 to the 80, 10 to the 28, that many atoms in him. So you compare a man, a person, with a whole universe, what is the ratio? So 1 out of 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, oh my God. If anyone say he is so great, he knows everything, let him look at this number. But amazingly, it's this one is still there. And the denominator is not infinity. If the universe is infinitely large, and then the denominator will be infinity. If it's infinity, anything compared to infinity becomes to what? 0, right? So if the universe is infinitely large, or the age of the universe or the time is infinitely long, then your life compared to any infinity will be totally meaningless because that's zero. But on the other hand, when you look at this number, yeah, it's a huge number, but it's not infinity. The one still exists. So let's see what is the purpose of this one. We just share with you the Big Bang actually is an expansion of the universe. Yeah, but with the expansion of the universe, there must be someone like you and me to exist? Is there a necessity? Or it's a very, 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 very rare event. So that from that we can see is there purpose. So let's see the first level is purpose of universe, and then we see is the purpose of life. So for Big Bang, it's not only all the universe, whole universe was started from a single point. Okay, let me go through this sequence of picture to illustrate how the universe begins. Universe begins from a very small point, and then from that point, all the time and space and energy and matter was created, and then expanding, and stretching. And at the same time, when you're expanding and stretching all the matter out and space out, you also need to have enough gravity and enough matter to consolidate, or you can say like a condensation of the rain. You have to have enough gravity and matter to consolidate and condensate those matter together so you can form galaxy. From the galaxy, then you can form stars. You can form stars, then surrounding stars, you can form planets. With the planets, then you and me can live. So is a universe just a random explosion? No, not at all. When the universe was stretching out with all the matter and the space and the time and the space all stretched out, at the same time, you have to keep an exquisite balance, so allow for the matter to condense together to form the galaxy and stars and planets, and finally, with a solid planet like ours, our Earth, we call it terrestrial planet, and then you can possibly have living beings and high intelligence, advanced intelligence, living beings like you and me can exist. So is that just by chance? Expanding, and then condensing, then you form the galaxy. From galaxy, you form star. From star, you form planets. From planets, a terrestrial planet, then you and me can exist. So there are two factors are very, very important. Has to be keep a exquisite balance. One is the energy of stretching it to expanding it. And the other one is the matter, how much matter you have in the space, and so that they can condensate, they can consolidate together, become lump, and then lumps can become galaxy and become stars, and then become planets, and with terrestrial planets, and then you and me can exist. So there are two factors are so important, absolutely essential. One is called the one on top omega lambda. The other one is called omega n. Omega lambda is the energy density. So how much energy you have to stretch the universe out, expand it. The second one is mass density. So how much matter you have, so that those matters can can consolidate together to form galaxies, stars, planets, and us. And this tool has to be finely tuned to a degree. The first one is 1 of 10 to the 120. 1 followed by 120 zeros. The second one has to be fine-tuned to the 1 of 10 to the 60. 1 followed by 60 zeros. Remember how many stars we have in the whole galaxy. People say, wow, the whole galaxy, there are so many stars and so many planets, must be somewhere else we can live. But the whole galaxy has only 10 to the power of 22 to 23 stars. But you have to fine-tune the universe to these two factors. One is 1 out of 10 to 60, one is 1 out of 10 to the 20. And let me evaluate these two numbers so that you can have a better idea. So what does that mean? Actually, I wrote a book, this one, Amazing Universe, Amazing Good Fortune. And Dr. Lowe actually has a copy. If you are interested, you can borrow from him. And if you need more, I can send in more copies to you. So from that, in that book, actually, I quoted a lot of astronomers, astrophysicists with their numbers and illustrated just a few of those fine-tunings, not all of them. We actually counted, some astronomer counted, there's more than 300 factors has to be fine-tuned so that we can exist, okay? So with this universe, and we just did a simple calculation. How accurate it needs to be? I use let me just use a illustration. It's like stretching a ramen. Have you ever seen the pool noodle demonstration? The pool noodle demonstration with a great chef, he can have a lump of a dough and stretch it one time, fold it, 2 string, fold it, 4 string, fold it, 8 string, fold it again, 16 strings. So at the end, he constantly fold it and stretch it, fold it and stretch it. How many threads of the noodle can he stretch out? And from the official record, it's 8,000 threads, more than 8,000 threads. Sometimes some people say, wow, that's what a great chef. Great chef. He can even stretch a lump of dough to 8,000 plus shreds of noodles. So that there are 2 factors are involved. One is how thick or how loose the lump of the dough is. The second is what is the strength of pulling the dough out to form those threads. So the first, how dense the dough is similar to the whole universe. You have to have a mass density exactly just that number. Otherwise, when you stretch it, it will break apart. Or it is too thick, you won't be able to stretch it at all. The second factor is what is the strength, the force you exert to stretch the noodle. So if you stretch it too hard, it will break away. If you don't have enough strength to stretch it, and you will still lump it together. So that's just an analogy like the whole universe. Indeed, in the whole universe, if you stretch the universe, you have to have these 2 factors. One is how much force, how much energy you exert to stretch the whole universe out to form the galaxy and stars and planets and us. And the second one is how much mass you have, so that those mass with a gravity, you can condensate and you can consolidate together, and then you can form galaxy and stars and planets and us. So we did a very simple calculation. If you are interested, it is in that book. With a 10 to the 80 that many atoms. And then you need to have accuracy. I just said that it's a 10 to the 1 over 10 to the 60, that much of the accuracy of a mass density. So that at the beginning of the universe will allow to have a life to exist. Well, so it's not difficult to calculate what is the maximum error you can allow to have. The maximum error you can have is just 10 to the 80 atoms divided by the maximum deviation you are allowed to is 1 out 10 to the 60, right? You just take these two numbers together, multiply together. So the maximum error you can allow to have is 10 to the 20 atoms. You get me? I hope that is a high school math, okay? So 10 to the 20 atoms, that's the maximum errors you can have for a whole universe at the beginning of the creation. How big is it for 10 to the 20 atoms? I did a very simple calculation. It's about the size of a head of a pin, a head of a needle, a grain of sand. In other words, the whole universe at the beginning of the creation, if you added 1 grain of sand or take away a grain of sand that much mass, you and me will not exist. Is there a purpose for the universe? Is there a purpose for our life? With this evidence, you can, of course, you can draw different kind of conclusion. One kind of conclusion is when I look at this kind of evidence, wow, there's a creator. A lot of scientists, like Dr. Low, like me, will make that decision. But some other made the other decision. Oh, it's only by chance. If it's only by chance, that means just looking at that single evidence, this evidence, I have several hundred other evidence. Just looking at that evidence, that means by chance you have to have a very, very strong faith to believe that. Your faith has to be 10 to the 60 times stronger than my faith, so that you can believe that there's no creator, there's no God. I believe my faith is based on the evidence. Your non-belief is not based on evidence. It's only on your own faith of non-existing probability. So that's why Galileo Galilei said, mathematics is the language in which God has written in the universe. If you don't math, you don't know math. If you don't study math, it will be very hard to appreciate how God loved us to so much in that degree. When we look at the whole universe, we look at all the evidence. For scientists, we made that decision. For example, Dr. Arnold Penzias, he actually was awarded the 1978 Nobel Prize in Physics because his discovery of a microwave background radiation, and with that discovery, proved that the Big Bang is correct. Big Bang model is correct. So as a result, he was awarded 1979 Nobel Prize Physics award. And that's his his summary with what observed and what was discovered at that time. Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created of nothing. So far, I have not quoted Bible, right? Dr. Arnold Penzias, he did not quote Bible, but he quoted astronomy. Astronomy leads us to a unique event. The universe actually was created out of nothing. The second, the one with a very dedicated balance needed to provide exactly the conditions required to permit life. And the one which has an underlining, you might say, a supernatural plan. So based on the physics and astronomy, now we are very sure the universe is created, and the universe was created out of nothing, and the universe was exquisitely fine-tuned so that your life and my life can exist. Even a non-believing, atheist scientist, Stephen Hawking, has to agree. He said, it will be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as the act of a God who intended to create beings like us. Why Stephen Hawking still an atheist? That's a separate lecture. When he was younger, when he was married with his first wife, actually he still attended the Church of England from time to time, and in his wheelchair. And after sermon, he will actually let the kids surrounding him play with his wheelchair. So yeah, he has his pain and his suffering in his life. So if you look at his life, strictly speaking, he's not atheist. He's a hate-Godist. He hates God. Okay. So from all of the things we have observed, we can conclude. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Now I quote it from the Bible. The created, that word is called bara. Bara is creation out of nothing. The second is and God said, when I consider your heavens and works of your fingers, the moon and stars which you have set in the plan, which is man that you are mindful of him, the son of man that you care for him. The first, God creates. The second, God cares. God creates. We observed the universe was created of nothing. The second, God cares. We observed the universe, it was exquisitely fine-tuned. If you add 1 grain of sand or deduct 1 grain of sand of the whole universe at the beginning of the creation, you and me will not exist. So God cares, God loves. So what is creation? Creation is not manufacturing. Creation is out of nothing. Creation is observable, and time was created with the universe. And universe is matter plus energy plus space plus time. And in the Bible, actually, there's a lot of places talking about stretching. Job 9:8-9 says, who alone stretch out the heavens and tremble down the waves of the sea, who makes the bear Orion and Pleiades and the chamber of the stars. Isaiah 44:24. Thus said the Lord, your Redeemer and the one who formed from the womb. I, the Lord, and the maker of all things, stretching out the heavens by myself and spreading out earth all alone. Is there a purpose for creation? Is there a purpose for life? Yes, I say yes. Dr. Lev say yes. For all the speakers in our sequence, say yes. Scientists, for most of scientists I know of back then in NASA time, I'll say half of them go to church every week. have at least 2/3 of them expressively tell that there's a God. Okay, so I think my time is about, although I have another about 30, 40 pages, I think I just stop over here and then allow us to have some interaction and question and answer.
Thank you very much, Pastor James.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. So we have some more time here that will be open for questions. And you can either turn on your, unmute yourself, or you can send your questions through chat. Either way. Well, let me ask Pastor Juan a question to begin with. So the universe is so fine-tuned that most of the scientists agree with that.
Yeah.
However, there are plenty of scientists who don't. And they are proposing, well, since they are based on materialistic thinking, there has to be something. It's nothing to something. So they were proposing the so-called multiverse theory.
Oh, yes.
They said there are infinite number of universes with different physical laws of each, and we happen to be lucky with a set of laws that permits life. So what is your answer to that?
I think that's a great question. Actually, I was presenting all these evidences and the fine-tuning of the universe. And then in the breakout rooms, there's a PhD candidate or postdoc from China, from, I think, Caltech. So we're talking about that. They said, well, yeah, Dr. Huang, whatever you said, we all agree. The fine-tuning, the number you just raised is, say, the what we call vacuum energy or dark energy, or sometimes called the energy density has to be fine-tuned 10 to the 120. But even there's even a more exquisite fine-tuning. If we're talking about the multiverse, you have to have 10 to the 500 universes. That's called multiverse. You have a 10 to the 1 followed by 500 0, 10 to the 500 universes, then can allow to have one universe like us to exist, to allow to have life. That is even more fine-tuning. So every time when there's someone does not believe in there's a creator, they just push the fine-tuning to upper level. There's fine-tuning, not only fine-tuning, it's even more fine-tuning. Okay. So even the hypothesis is right. It's, whoa, there's a 10 to the 500, that many universes to allow to have one universe like us to exist. Where are those 10 to the 500 universes coming from? So that our one universe can allow to have 5. Like, let's just push that level, one level above.
Okay, thank you. We have some questions from the floor. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that somewhere in the universe there exist other life forms?
I talking about ET, extraterrestrial intelligence, or aliens. It depends. That is one of the questions I've been asked most. I think a lot of people are very interested in intelligence, extraterrestrial intelligence. That means by definition, and high intelligence outside the terrestrial, outside this Earth. Can we observe it? Is that going to ride a spaceship like a disk flying to the Earth and then salvage all the Earth's resource? That will be, I would say, science fiction. We can do a very simple calculation. the nearest star is a Proxy Centauri. And Proxy Centauri is 4 light years away from solar system. 4 light years means a light has to travel 4 years. Round trip will be 8 years. What is the concept of a light need to travel for 8 years, for 4 years? With all the Earth's resource, with all the proportion resource you can mine from the Earth, put on one aircraft, one spacecraft, then push it as fast as you can. It will take about 100,000 years to travel 4 light years, that distance. You said, why can you not just push it faster? Well, from the special relativity, we are aware of that. When any object has a mass, the faster it moves, the mass actually will increase. So the heavier it is. So if you want to push it to the speed of a light, and the mass becomes infinity. So you have to have an infinite energy resource to push it, which is impossible. So whatever the science fiction is science fiction, you still has to follow the physics. The physics is physics. Okay, so with some aliens traveling and visiting Earth by a spacecraft, probably is not quite possible. But I did not rule out there's an intelligent, could be some other living beings in other part of the universe. But as a matter of fact, from astrobiology, we do observe probably there's a other form of amino acid. We actually can look at the spectrum, other amino acid. If we have an amino acid, and with an amino acid, probably can form some kind of protein. But just a protein itself cannot form life. You have to have a protein, have a DNA. One is digital, hereditary coding, and then the other one is a structure. With these two conform together, then you can have a living life. So with other sessions and other specialists in biology will explain to you. So what is the art to have just a very simple form of a bacteria? We did calculations, just about 10 to the 1,000, one followed by 1,000 zeros to have a very simple form of a bacteria. So with a simple form of bacteria in other part of the universe, may be possible, but just as a single cell. But with intelligence like us, I would say the probability, we just do the calculation, it's 0. But if you are really interested, is there other higher intelligence ever come in, visit this Earth, and tell us the knowledge above what we had known before? Yes, indeed, surely. That's called incarnation. The Word become flesh. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, became flesh, became man, came to our earth to tell us God loves you. So I would say, if you are asked, is there alien? There's only one alien.
Okay. There are several questions I saw here, which actually will be covered in another session. People are asking about the 7-day creation, or one of them saying 5,000, maybe 5,000 years. I think those questions we will answer partially in the other class.
Okay, I just said it very quickly. That word day actually in the original text is called yom. Yom has a 3 literal meaning. One is from sunrise to sunset, which is not 24 hours. The second is a period of time like in chapter 2, Genesis chapter 2, and the verse 4. This is account of the heavens and earth when they were created, account of the days, the original text, the days of the Lord created. So the days is also yom, is a period of time. The third literal interpretation is 24 hours from one sunset to next sunset, according to Hebrews as their custom. So one sunset to another sunset must be 24 hours. So someone insists must be that 24 hours. I would say even from sunset to sunset is not necessarily 24 hours. We have some coworkers in Finland. Around this time, they will text me, well, good night, a very long night, because next time I will see the sun will be 3 months later. So sunrise to sunset is not even 24 hours. Depends where you are. Okay, so
well,
my answer. So my simplest answer is a day. The yom is a period of time. Okay.
Okay. Based on the questions I saw, let me first do some commercial. Okay. Next week we will be having Dr. Tan talking about the coding and decoding in biological systems, which is has some relation to the origin of life issues. Okay, so people are asking about whether there's life outside of this universe. I mean, outside of our planet. Okay? Things like that. We'll talk about a little bit then, and also in the last class of this session, we'll be talking about the creation stories. Okay, there are different theories about how the universe was created. Either the so-called 7-day creation, young Earth, old Earth, and other theories. So we can talk about that more. There is another question. Oh, there's another book that if you are interested, it's called The Privileged Planet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That book is very good in talking about how the Earth, the planet Earth, is fine-tuned to permit life. Okay? We have atmosphere, we have water, we have volcanoes, we have tectonic plates. You know, all those things work together to allow life, sophisticated, high level. Okay, life, sophisticated life forms like you and me. Okay,
several books. This one highly recommended. Creator and Cosmos. So the author actually listed 210 factors has to be fine-tuned in the universe so that we can exist. So from Dr. Hugh Ross, he himself is an astronomer. Begar, Rodney Holder, and a couple, there's another one written from academic point of view. It's not not from Christians, but how to build a habitable planet from 2 professors in Washington University and Harvard University. Very thick book, if you are interested. Yeah. And then from Cambridge University, the paleontology chairman, Simon Conway Morris, Professor Simon Conway Morris, Life Solution. So there's endless, all of these books. So you are interested, I can provide you books after books after books after books, many of them.
Okay. One question asking about the universe being so large, so it's reasonable to believe that there would be possible for life form existing in other planets. So I think that is possible, but so far none has been found. And also, even if there's some primitive life form in Mars or in whatever planets we can reach, it doesn't mean that there will be advanced life possible. Okay, So there are many, many factors like Pastor Juan just mentioned. So I can just, I'll stop there. And there's another question about, do parallel universe exist? I think that's similar like a multiverse. Right? Do parallel universe exist?
Well, let me give a very simple question. Answer is a parallel universe or multi-universe. By definition, this universe and the other universe does not overlap, can never observe each other. So if some event is not observable, not testable, is that science or fiction? I don't say that it's impossible, but you can never observe it.
Yeah, so they are not observable. Okay, one more question. The Big Bang starts a long time ago, and it keeps expanding, and then will be crashing, and then again cycling like that. You know, this is some big bang and big crunch kind of thing. I don't think that's possible due to the discovery, I think in 1989 or so, that the universe is expanding and accelerating. They will have no return. Okay.
So actually, what we observe is universe not only expanding, now the second half of the expansion is accelerating. So from whatever the expansion rate, we know that it cannot collapse back if the universe is only by itself. That's assumption, right? If the universe is only by itself, if there's no, the creator just started up and just let it go, and then you will constantly expanding, and there's never end. You say, okay, there's the beginning, but there's no end. That's called deism. But then we found out such assumption and that creator will not actually interact with the universe. Well, so when I read that, I actually refer back to the Hebrews chapter 1, verse 10. He also says, in the beginning, O Lord, you laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the works of your hand. They will perish, but you remain, and they will all wear out like a garment. You will roll them up like a robe, like a garment, they will change. So there's two things that are very important. One, chapter 11, they will wear out. That's the second law of thermodynamics. So entropy will continually to increase, and the whole universe will wear out and gradually expanding. The temperature will drop, and the randomness will be maximized. So it will wear out. But at one day, and then next sentence, they will roll up. They will roll them up like a robe, and like a garment, they will be changed. So one day, the creator can end this universe, is warp the whole space and time, wrapped it up. Yes, space and time can be warped, can be rolled up. But you have to have the creator outside this universe can roll it up. And then we have new heaven and new earth.
Okay, we still have some time. Dr. Huang, may I suggest you to share something for our students who may be interested in study science and engineering? Do you have any advice for them? How did you get so interested in astronomy?
That's great.
Physics.
That's great. Yeah, it all started from 1969 July. 1969, and I was 14 years old. There was two events quite important to my life. One is 1969 July, And I watched, in one evening, I was watching a black-white TV. I saw the first man landed on the moon. Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong extended his leg on the moon, said, "There's a one small step for a man and one giant step for mankind." So I was so shocked when I look at the thing. I say, wow, one day I want to work in that place. I didn't even know what the place is. Later on, I learned that it's called NASA. Later on, I know when they communicate with the ground said, Houston, Houston. Oh, the Houston is where I was working, Johnson Space Center. So that really inspired me, So I made a wish that one day I want to work in that organization, that place, so that I can explore the space. Although I know I wear glasses, I will never be able to be qualified. Physically, I will never be able to be an astronaut. But I can be a scientist, at least. So I worked very hard and studied science and came to US and get my doctor's degree. And then after graduation, because my school, Texas State University, which is very close to Johnson Space Center, is only about hour and a half away. And they had an opening, and I have about 50, 60 applications, 2 interviews, and 1 job offer, which is Johnson Space Center. And so I started working in Johnson Space Center. So that was when I was 14 years old, that was my first dream. The second event was also very important impact in my life. And I was saved when I was about 12 years old, became a true believer. I was 5th generation of Christian, but I always thought I'm a grandson of God. But actually, there's no grandchildren of God. My parents are Christians, has a relationship with God, doesn't mean I have a relationship with God. So before 12 years old, I thought I can be a grandchildren of God. No, I didn't have grandchildren. So actually, I said Jesus Christ became my personal savior when I was 12 years old. So at the 14, I was a very devout Christian by age of 14. And that year, our whole fellowship, like our Sunday school group, our youth group, well, whole group went out to watch a movie. It's called Queen of the Dark Chamber. It's pretty much a biography of a lady and how he actually become almost totally blind. But in her dark chamber, in her room, just led hundreds of people to Christ. So at the end of the movie, a pastor extended an altar call, 2 altar calls. First altar call is whoever would like to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior and the Lord. So there's some raise their hand and go forward. And the second altar call is whoever want to dedicate their life to become a servant of God, servant of the Lord. I raised my hand and I stood up, actually I walked to the front. So I was 14 years old at the time. And fast forward, I became a scientist in NASA. I really enjoy what I do. Sometimes I say, well, there's a big guy gave us a big money and let us play with the big toys. What would be a better job like that? It's a lot of fun. When I was 45 years old, one day, and God called me again. And said, James, still remember what the wish you made when you were 14 years old? The first, you want to be a scientist. Now you are a scientist. Second, what did you say? So I submitted to God. And at the age of 45, I gave up my science and engineering career. And 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, I became a servant of the Lord, and became a preacher, became pastor church for 14 years. The same church, I was a lay leader in that church for 14 years, then continued to pastor that church for another 14 years. I was in the same church for 28 years. And in the past 6 years, I was leading this ministry, as you can see, this one, this ministry, Far East Broadcasting Company, Chinese ministry, as an executive director in the past 6 years. So I've been serving the Lord full-time for 20 years. Short answer for a long history, long story.
Thank you very much for sharing. That's very precious. The Big Bang and the fine-tuned universe is the strongest, ever strongest evidence for theism, for having a creator. Okay. And next week, there's another so-called biology explosion, biology Big Bang.
Cambrian explosion.
I could have invited Dr. Paul Chan, who is local also. Okay. Mm-hmm. He's the expert on that, but maybe in the future we'll have another session where I invite him. And besides that, there's a third explosion people are talking about. Okay, there's not any proof yet. It's because it's about the origin of science. People are saying that there must be a chemical explosion to have all the basic molecules to get together to make a protein, to make life. Okay. So next week, Professor Tan will be talking about the coding and decoding in the biological systems. Okay. That's exactly from the biochemistry level, a very fundamental level, to evaluate whether the life could be evolved as the Darwinian theory or created, okay, by somehow. Okay. So that's another very interesting subject. So, our time is about up. Let me check the questions. Okay. Okay, I think we pretty much covered. Oh, do aliens exist? Okay. I think Pentagon released some videos about some pilots spotting strange mythical spots on their screen. Okay? And that's, many people are thinking that, oh gosh, alien must be here somehow. Do you have any comments as the last question?
Yes, actually there's a book by the author I just referred to called Light in the Sky, Little Green Man. Okay. Hugh Ross actually touched upon this topic too. So actually I did answer that with there's a slim possibility of a low form single cell life form in an alien planet is possible, but the probability for advanced life like us and can also travel to Earth, that kind of a possibility is near zero. Yeah. But more possible is if we can communicate to them through radio wave. So if you are interested, go search for on internet called SETI, S-E-T-I, SETI. Search for extraterrestrial intelligence. We actually use a radio wave to scan the sky and try to find intelligent signals, which is I'm very interested. If there's another place actually has intelligence that we can communicate with, then I would definitely ask him, what is your experience of God? But
speaking of SETI, SETI is actually local. I think it's in Menlo Park. Okay. Yeah. And one time, about a few months ago, I sat in a seminar, not a seminar, just a talk by the director, by one of the directors in there, who is an astrobiologist. Okay. we're talking about where does life come from and things like that. She actually, of course, she didn't have any answer except by saying that she believes the Cambrian explosion, somehow all the life forms just came about, okay? And when we talk about the alien life forms, she began to talk about what is life from a philosophical point of view. People don't know what life is, and doesn't know how life came about. So, but people are still sort of like crazy trying to find out where Mars has life or not. Having water doesn't mean that there will be life. Okay? But anyway, this is a different subject. Well, we are running out of time. If you still have some questions, you can stay behind for another 5 minutes or so, or we will just let us give Dr. Huang applause. Thank you for your time, for your sharing. It's wonderful. And all the classes are recorded. So if you want to watch it or want to share with your friends, you can do that. Okay. So thank you very much again, Dr. Huang.
Thank you.
We'll invite you back again.